All right, so I've managed to make a fair mess of my calendar artwork just by applying a few fill attributes because I have some stacking order problems inside of my illustration. Hence, I've gone ahead and saved my progress so far as stackingmadness.ai found inside the 07 fill stroke folder. And tell you what I'm going to do. In this exercise, I'm going to show you how to move artwork up and down the stack incrementally, or all the way forward and all the way backward. And then in the next exercise, I'll show you a more nuanced approach that's been with us since Illustrator 1.0. All right, just to get rid of some of the clutter here inside my artwork, I'm going to hide this big 8-pointed star cluster. And the simplest way to do that, in the case of this illustration anyway, is to go over to the Layers panel, twirl open the calendar layer, and you'll see that the second object down is called Rear Stars. At least they should be in the rear. Right now they're close to the front. I'll go ahead and click the eyeball in front of Rear Stars in order to hide them from view for the moment. Then I'm going to switch over to the wide view into this very same document, and I'm going to color in these outer rings, which so far have transparent fills. So here's the simplest approach. I'll go up to the swatches panel and I'll grab this color right there, C50 M35 Y20 K0, that shade of blue, and I'll drag it and drop it onto that circle. So the first circle inward that doesn't so far have a fill. And oh my gosh, completely the wrong position. As you can see, it's like we've got some crazy starship or multi-hold bowling ball or something going on. That's fine. We'll take care of that problem in just a moment. There's the path, incidentally, right there. So why don't I turn it off? So again, I can see what I'm doing. I'll press the V key in order to get the black arrow tool, and I'll click on this circle. Notice it's the one that's a little higher than the circle behind it. And I'm going to go ahead and lift some fill and stroke attributes once again using the eyedropper. So I'll press the I key to get my eyedropper tool, and I'll click on this dark green path outline right there. The second I get done clicking on it, it disappears from view because it's obscured by this path in this stack. All right, well, I'll leave that one visible because I don't need to be able to see through it at this point. I'm going to switch back to my black arrow tool, and I'm going to click on the next path outward, this guy right there. And this is supposed to be a shadow, so I'm going to switch the fill and stroke attributes by pressing Shift-X, so some familiar stuff that we're doing at this point. And then I'll click on the next shape outward, this guy, and I want to fill it with this very light color here. It's C0 M6 Y12 K12. And then I'm going to select the next circle outward, the final circle, in fact, and I'm going to fill it with C0M3 Y7K7, an even lighter color. And then I'll marquee these two circles to select them, and I'll go up to the control panel right there. I'll click on the stroke icon, and I'll switch it to none so that we have no strokes associated with those outermost circles. Pretty interesting stuff so far. We've, really obscured our artwork. What do? Well, I'm going to turn this blue path back on, and I'm going to add to the selection these next shapes, and they all appear at the top of the Layers panel. So notice that these two very light beige shapes, both named Path here inside the Layers panel, notice that they're selected. I'm going to Shift Meatball each of the other three, like so. So we have 5 paths selected in all. And now I'll right-click anywhere inside the illustration window, and I'll drop down to the Arrange menu, and notice that I have your typical arrangement options, your typical stacking order commands, that is to say. So we've got Bring to Front. They are almost already all the way in front. So if I was to choose that command, we'd just cover up the holes. If I right-click again and choose Arrange, we also have the option of Sending to Back. Now, depending on what software you've used in the past, these may seem like some crazy keyboard shortcuts that are available to us because, what's wrong with good old Control or Command F for Bring to Front and Control or Command B for Send to Back? Well, turns out there's something very much wrong with that because Illustrator devotes those keyboard shortcuts to much more useful commands, as we'll see in the next exercise. But for now, we've got the square bracket keys shortcuts. So you've got Control-Shift right bracket or Command-Shift right bracket on the Mac to bring the selected objects all the way forward inside of a layer or group. So just inside of their container. Bear that in mind. Or you can set them all the way back by pressing Control-Shift left bracket. That's Command-Shift left bracket on the Mac. Now, those initially are difficult keyboard shortcuts to remember, but they're very useful. And they work inside of a wide variety of Adobe applications, including, by the way, Photoshop. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and choose Send to Back in order to send those objects all the way to the back of the stack. All right, so that works beautifully for those objects. And incidentally, by the way, this guy right there, this green circle that's toward the interior, I don't want it to be that shade of green. I want it to be this color, grayish green. So I'll go ahead and assign that color to the shape. And now I'm going to switch to the zoomed in window. What if you want to move a shape not all the way forward or all the way backward, but incrementally? For example, remember that one circle that we covered up a while back that was the innermost circle in this interior group? And I can find it by moving my black arrow tool cursor around until I see a little square next to the black arrow. And that shows me that there's a path outline at that location right about there. So I'll click on it, and sure enough, that's the circle. All right, so I'll right-click, and I'll choose Arrange, and I'll choose Bring Forward, because I don't want to bring it all the way to front. If I choose that command, notice there's the green circle. Great, but it's covering up a bunch of other stuff. I've had it up to here with objects covering each other. Don't want that, so I'll press Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac. Instead, right-click, choose Arrange, and choose Bring Forward, which has an ostensibly simpler keyboard shortcut. It's just Control right bracket or Command right bracket on the Mac, compared with Send Backward, which is Control left bracket or Command left bracket on the Mac. And in case you're wondering how far forward or how far backward, just one step. And I'm going to take note of this keyboard shortcut right now because I'm going to use it over and over again to try to get this guy in the right position. Control right bracket, Command right bracket on the Mac. Doesn't seem to do anything. That's because we just stepped up one object. And for all I know, we moved from just below this outermost circle to just below this next circle in. So we still can't see the selected circle. So I'll press Control right bracket again. That would be Command right bracket again on the Mac. And again, and again, and again. And finally, that works. So I didn't really count, but something like 5 to 7 times I had to press that keyboard shortcut in order to move that circle into the proper position. All right, so that's obviously not the way to work because you'd be at it for days. Now you can, of course, go to the Layers panel and you can try to find that object someplace inside the list, and some objects are easy to find. For example, this big bright green circle, I could just go ahead and drag it down the stack in order to move it backward, and there it went, and I could move it up the stack in order to move it forward. So you can work that way if you want, but once your illustrations become sufficiently complicated, it's very difficult to navigate your way around the Layers panel unless you spend a lot of time organizing your layers, organizing your paths into groups, and so on. The easier approach when you're trying to relatively stack objects inside of Illustrator are the paste in front and paste in back commands, and I'm going to show you how those work in the next exercise.